Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be going about the sewing of this monostrap gown, which has a 3-layered puff sleeve and also a pocket in front. It's a detailed tutorial and beginners friendly as well, and if it sounds like something interested in learning, please continue watching and let's get started. So in the first part of this tutorial, which was the drafting, I shared a detailed process on how to go about a detailed drafting from the sleeve to the pocket to the blouse to the skirt and everything. So in this particular tutorial, I'll be sharing with you all how to join all of these drafted pieces together. So after cutting out on our pattern paper, I went ahead to now cut out on our fabric, and I also added stitching allowance all around, which I showed you all in the first part of the tutorial. So please kindly do watch that first part of the tutorial so you understand everything I'll be doing right here, and the link to that tutorial will be in the comment section. So for all of this, my fabric, I also cut out my lining piece and I ironed my stay as well to the wrong side of my fabric. You can as well iron your stay to your lining piece. It's totally up to you. So this is the front part of my dress for the upper part, so I'm going to start working on it right now. So all I'm going to do is to remove this my pattern paper that I have on my fabric.
There was once a day that I would pray for you, I'd go and misbehave.
So having done that, I'll get my lining piece and place it on the right side of my fabric. So I'll place it this way and I'll go ahead and pin it all around.
I can't wait, our first time, our first date. You're so fine, I'm so late. You sip wine, I drink straight.
Now I've pinned the neckline, I'll go ahead and mark half of an inch, which I left for our joining allowance. So I'm going to join at that point, this using just half of an inch. I'll join the two sides using 1/4 of an inch, and I'll join the base using just 1/4 of an inch. All right, so I'll turn it out from my armhole. So this is for the back part of my upper dress or my gown. Now this is the part that has the off shoulder, and I'm also going to get my lining piece and place it on the right side of this my fabric, and I'll also go ahead and pin the neckline, which is this upper part. After pinning, I'm going to mark my half of an inch for my joining, and I'll join the both sides and also the base, and I'll turn out everything from the armhole. I'll repeat the same thing for this back part of my dress, which has the normal shoulder as well. So for the lower part or the skirt part of my gown, you see what I have, and my fabric is like 2 inches longer than my actual skirt measurement. So right now I'll spread it out right side facing the camera. So I'm going to get this my lining piece, and at the base I'm going to pin my lining piece and my fabric together right sides facing each other. So by the time you do this, you will realize I have excess at the top part. So I'm going to show you all how this will align at the end of the day, because that is how I usually do this. So after pinning, you mark half of an inch just as I've done right here, and then when you stitch, you now drag your lining upward. So by the time you do this, you're going to have your fabric coming this way, and you can see how beautiful it will look. Then you stitch the sides of your skirt, that is the two sides, using just 1/4 of an inch. Stitch the waist part using 1/4 of an inch. So at the sides, just leave about 2 inches where you turn it out from before you go ahead and iron. So this is for my pockets. I also cut out my lining piece for my pocket as well. So I'll place my lining as well right side facing my pocket, and I'm going to stitch all around. I'll leave about 2 inches at the side where I will turn this out from. Then I will now iron and stitch it up down later. So I've gone ahead to do all of this thing I've explained to you all so far. So as you stitch and you turn it to the right side, please go ahead and also stitch your darts. Okay, so this is for the front part of my skirt, and you can see how nice it's looking. At that point I pointed, I just had to leave 2 inches there and turned it out from there before I stitched it back. So this is all I have for the front part. And for the base, you can see that I still have my skirt length plus my joining allowance. So this is how it's supposed to look, and you can see how beautiful it is. I repeated the same process for the back part of my skirt, and this is for the upper part of my gown. And you can see I also stitched in my darts. I turned out everything from the armhole after stitching the neckline, the sides, and also the base. So it's just the armhole now that I have unweaved. So I now went ahead to place my dress for the upper part right sides facing each other. Make sure that the armhole aligns, make sure that the side aligns, but firstly I have to join the shoulder. So I'm going to open up the shoulder this way as I'm doing right here, and you also get the front part of my shoulder, and I opened it up this way. So fabric to fabric and lining to lining, I'm going to make sure that they match very well this way. From the joints I have on each of the shoulder, they'll align, and I'll pin it. So when I'm done pinning, I'll go ahead and now stitch them using just half of an inch. So by the time I do this, you're going to see how neat your journey is going to be on your shoulder. So you all can see what I have. So I'll turn it now to the right side, so you can see how neat this join is looking at this point. So that's the essence of doing it that way. So I'll now proceed to join the sides of my dress. So I'm going to join using 1.25 inch. Yes, I know that when I was drafting, I left a sewing allowance of 1.5 inches. So you know, by the time you stitch both sides of your fabric and your lining together, you are stitching with 1/4 inch. So you also need to subtract that 1/4 inch from your stitching allowance, so that your dress doesn't get so tight on you at the end of the day. Okay, so that is the reason. So from the armhole, just come down by 1/2 inch, and from that 1/2 inch you now mark your stitching allowance. So the reason is because while fixing your sleeve, so it's going to be very easy for you. Okay, so from that 1/2 inch, just stitch this all the way down. For the other side of my dress, I'll also repeat the same process. The front part and the back part of my dress aligns on the armhole. I'll go ahead and mark my stitching allowance. So firstly, I'll come down by 1/2 inch from my armhole, so that the fixing of my sleeve is not going to be a problem when I get to that, and also mark my sewing allowance. So when I was done with this, I measured out my waist and it properly aligned. So here's the pocket of my dress. I've actually gone ahead to also stitch all around and turn it out, and also iron, as you can see right here. So the next is to fix it now to the front part of our skirt. So remember that we marked 7 inches from our waist down to somewhere around the hip area. Then that is the part I'm going to pin, I mean the slanted part where we cut out. So I'm going to pin it the side of my pocket, right side facing my skirt. So you can see that I measured out that 7 inches from my waistline to ensure I don't exceed it, since I've already gone ahead to turn this up totally. So when you stitch, you now get the excess and now top stitch on your pocket. So I've gone ahead to do that right now. Please ensure that you don't exceed that 7 inches marked. Okay, so after this, now I'm going to just push this my pocket inside this way. Just watch closely what I'm doing, and make sure that the sides of my skirt aligns with the very ends or sides of one part of my pocket, as you can see right here. So I believe you understand what I did right here so far. Okay, so make sure that the side of your skirt aligns with the ends of your pocket. So when you must have achieved this, go ahead and pin. So after pinning, all you're going to do is to raise your skirt, your main fabric, that's your skirt, raise it up. Then from underneath that part where I pin, go ahead and stitch straight and stitch it this other way. So double stitch on from underneath that part where my hand is pointing right now, and stitch it to the other side. Then as you are doing that, also arrange the top part of this your pocket and also stitch it down. So I've already gone ahead to stitch mine down. I actually have a more detailed tutorial how to fix your pocket properly. Okay, so I did it for the both parts of my skirts, and at this point now my waist circumference has actually comes to its normal size. Then this is the back part or the wrong side of my dress. You can see how neat it's looking. So after that, now I'm just going to go ahead now to join the sides of my skirt, like the back part of my skirt to the front part. Okay, so make sure that you get the stitch the hip side, that's the hip side, and place it right side facing the front part of your skirt, and pin it at the sides. So do it for the both parts. So after pinning, now I'll go ahead and mark my stitching allowance. So remember I said I'll be removing the 1/4 inch which I used earlier to stitch my fabric to my lining piece. So thereby I'll be marking 1.25 inch. So what I mean by 1.25 inch is when you mark 1 inch, count 2 lines. So the 2 lines is what I refer to as my 1/4 inch. Okay, so do it for the both sides, and I also did the same thing for the upper part of my dress, and this is what I have. So after joining the back part and also fixing my pocket and ironing this out properly, so I'm going to join the upper part to the lower part of this my skirt, so that it can become one piece. So on the waist area, I'll start from the zipper allowance for both the upper part and the lower part of my gown, and I'm going to pin this all around to the other side. So when I'm done pinning this, I'm just going to mark half of an inch and join it together. So when you get to the sides at this point where you have your joints, go ahead and open up your seam, so that, because if you don't open up your seam and you stitch it together, most times it's bulky at the side. Like when you put on your dress, you just have this bulginess by the side of your dress, okay, and that is not nice at all. So open up your seam this way, just as I've done, and see everything corresponding perfectly at this point. So stitch using half of an inch. When I did that, this is what I have. So the next thing left now is for us to fix our sleeve. So remember, we already drafted our sleeve in the first part of the tutorial, which was the drafting part. So that's why I advise you, please go and watch it so you understand everything I'm doing right here. So here's my sleeve now. I'm going to go ahead now to remove our pattern paper from our fabric. I've gone ahead to do this. Now I'm going to remove one part of the sleeve, because remember, we drafted the two sleeves at once, right? So now remember that one part of our dress doesn't have a shoulder, right? So it's like off the shoulder. So that is what we're also going to maintain right here. And remember that I subtracted 4.5 inches from my shoulder, like I cut it off when I was drafting. Okay, so that 4.5 inches is what I'm going to subtract from this my sleeve, and I just went ahead to cut it out straight. So I'm going to get that armhole which I have for the off shoulder part of my dress, and I'm going to place it right now on my fabric. But firstly, I marked 1 inch downward, which will be my allowance for creating my channel where my elastic will be passing through. So I got this my armhole, and I'm going to place it on that 1 inch line I have. Then I'm going to trace out this my armhole for this off shoulder part. So after tracing out my chalk, I'll now go ahead and cut this out. So for the other sleeve, it's going to be normal, because our shoulder is normal for the other sleeve. Okay, so this is all I have, and I'll start working on this right now. So all I'm going to do now is to firstly go ahead and notch this center of my armhole. Then I'm going to run a gather stitch on this armhole. This is for the normal shoulder part. Then for this other part that is off the shoulder, I'm going to fold in half of an inch and fold it half of an inch again. So I'm trying to create a channel where my elastic will be passing through, because I'm going to be fixing an elastic to this. So fold it in this way and stitch at the very end of these folds you have right here after pinning. So I'll go ahead and use my sewing machine and do that. Do it for the upper part and the lower part. Then for the normal sleeve, also do it for the lower part. Okay, so this is what I have. I've gone ahead to do it for the both parts of my sleeve. So now from that top part of my sleeve, I went ahead to mark 6 inches. So this is me now trying to create the lines where I'll be stitching my elastic on this my fabric. So this marks I'm making right here is on the wrong side of my fabric. So from that 6 inches, I also marked 7 inches. Reason is because this is a 3 layered puff sleeve. So after dividing this, you can see that I have 3 layers of this, 1 2 3. So that is the reason. Then after that, now I'll get this my elastic. This my elastic is 3/4, half of an inch wide. So I'm going to pin my elastic exactly on top of that line which I marked already. This is on the wrong side. So I pinned it, I secured it with pin at one end. Now you're going to stretch your elastic and stitch at the middle of your elastic. So when you do this, your fabric is going to stretch automatically on its own. Okay, I'll still show you all this on my sewing machine. So for the normal sleeve, from the cap of my sleeve, I marked down 8 inches. All these markings depends on how wide you want this to be or how apart you want it to be, but please ensure that they are all equal and the segments or the layers are aligning. Okay, so now you can see what I have. I've stretched my elastic. This is on the wrong side of my fabric, so you can see right here that I've pulled, like I'm pulling. If you cannot really do this, please go ahead and pin this first. Okay, so as I stretch my elastic, I am stitching just right at the middle of this my elastic, and I'm having these ruffles, okay, or these gathers. So this is what I was just trying to explain to you all. So stretch your elastic, make sure it's exactly on that line. Go ahead and pin your elastic or your elastic to your fabric if you cannot really do this with your free hand without pinning first. Okay, so continue doing this, and I did this for all the layers. So you see that I have 3 layers here for this side and this other side as well. So at the hem of this normal sleeve, I've gone ahead to fix my elastic through my elastic casing. So for this one now, I will now go ahead and fix my elastic. So it's really advisable for you to run your elastic on your fabric before you go ahead to pass your elastic to your elastic casing, right? Please don't get me wrong. So just pass this through, secure it at one end, and you now go ahead and pull. So I'm doing this for the upper part, the armhole part of this my off the shoulder sleeve. So stretch this, ensure that this is not so tight. Okay, so just stretch this. You know how stretchy enough is going to be before you stop, right? So I'm going to stretch this, as you can see. So when I was okay with the stretch I have, I now pin the other end together with my fabric so it doesn't slip off. Then I cut off the excesses. I'll also repeat the same thing for the base of my sleeve. So when I was done fixing that, this is what I have. Remember to also secure it at both ends, so double stitch, back stitch properly on your sewing machine. So get the right sides of your fabric on the armhole and also your sleeve, and now pin it exactly the way the shape is. When you pin one part, go ahead and pin for the other part exactly the way it is. It's going to align properly, just as I'm doing right here. So when you now do that, you get one part of your sleeve. You are now going to mark 1 inch inward and now stitch up to your armhole. So all these things I'll still show you. See, so mark 1 inch inward from that your armhole inward, and now stitch it all the way to your armhole. So do it for the both parts, and at the end of the day you can see what I have. So this is for the off shoulder sleeve part. So for the normal shoulder sleeve part, you know, I already ran a gather stitch at the armhole, so I'm just going to get the middle of this my sleeve and now pin it to the joints I have on my shoulder. So I'll get the ends of the armhole of one part and I will now pin the ends of my sleeve right sides. I'm pinning all of this right side. So right now I have these excesses on my sleeve because of the presence of the exaggerated sleeve. So all I'm going to do is just to pull on the threads I have at the ends of one part of my sleeve, and I'll now pin all around my armhole before I go ahead and stitch. My camera was really messing up at this point, so that was why this part was not too detailed, but I just hope you understand what I mean. Stretch the rope or the threads at one part of your sleeve, and the excesses you have, make sure they align with one part of your armhole, and you go ahead and stitch and repeat the other same thing for the other side of your sleeve. Please, I hope you understand what I mean at this point, right? So I tried as much as possible to be detailed doing this particular part, but my camera was really messing up. But I believe you understand what I mean. So when I was done doing all of that, after pinning, go ahead and stitch your armhole. After stitching your armhole, get the ends of your sleeve, that is the base of your sleeve. So bring it together as I've done right here, and you're going to stitch. When you now stitch it, join it together with the body part of your dress, and this is what you're going to have. So you can see how neat my dress is looking so far. And the next thing is for me to fix my sleeve. I joined this together on the zipper area this way. Then from the base, I'm going to go up by 8 inches, which is going to be for my slit, so that you can walk while you wear your gown. Okay, so from the waist, I'll now come down by 7.5 inches, and I'll mark 1 inch inward this way. The upper part up to my 7.5 inches, I'll fix my zipper, and at the end of the day, this is what I have. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Thank you so much for watching. I'll definitely see you all in my next one on the same channel. Have a lovely time ahead of you. Bye.